It's time for Michael Morales Torres and Lucha Libre Online.
Saludos a toda la afición de la lucha libre. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de Lucha Libre Online, y tenemos el enorme privilegio de presentarles a nuestro invitado en la tarde de hoy, directamente desde Hong Kong para el mundo, ex luchador de la WWE y también el actual propietario y creador de Hong Kong Pro Wrestling. Él es Ho Lun. Sir, it is such an honor to have you as our guest. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good today. Thanks for inviting me here for Lucha Libre Online.
For us, it's an honor to have you here as our guest, Ho Lun. We just wanted to start talking about how your passion for pro wrestling started. When did you start watching pro wrestling and you decided that this is what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Well, I remember I first watched wrestling when I was 8 years old. There's some masked man, there's some big man, big muscle, wearing an underwear-like trunk. That was 8 years old, 1996, somewhere like that. And at the end, I realized that was New Japan Pro Wrestling, and who I was watching growing up, Jushin Thunder Liger, Great Muta, like that. And at the same time, I remember another TV station in Hong Kong, they have WCW Nitro broadcast. So if you can remember, back in 1995, 1996, they have a cooperation between WCW and New Japan. So that's actually quite strange. In one channel, I watched the same person wrestling in another channel in America. That's how I started watch pro wrestling.
So let me translate to our Spanish-speaking audience. La pasión de Ho Lun por la industria de la lucha libre comenzó cuando solo tenía 8 años de edad, y es que de momento vio a este hombre enmascarado en un trunk, en un calzoncillo, y dice, wow, ¿qué rayos es esto? Y quedó enamorado de la lucha libre. En aquel momento dado se dio cuenta que quien estaba viendo era New Japan Pro Wrestling y estaba viendo a Jushin Thunder Liger y a The Great Muta. Posteriormente comienza también a ver el producto de WCW y podía darse cuenta que gente como Jushin Thunder Liger estaba tanto allá como en Estados Unidos luchando, como en Japón. Y ese fue el momento en que él dijo, esto es lo mío. You made a huge thing in your career and was your debut in 2009 as a pro wrestler. Do you remember anything specific from your first match? Because usually the wrestlers I have as our guest, they said that usually the first match was bad, but they remember some details. So what can you talk us about your first pro wrestling match?
My experience was a little bit different with from most of the wrestler, because I'm also a promoter myself, and that's the first show that I promote in Hong Kong. I am actually more nervous about selling how many tickets or any fans gonna show up than instead of having myself botch in the ring or do some like ugly thing in the ring. The thing that concerned me most are the overall quality of the first show. In fact, our first show is run in our training school. At the end, we draw about only 50 people, really passionate people. I remember back in the days, there's a hot summertime in June. I remember in Hong Kong in June, it's almost 30 degrees indoor without air conditioning. But the fans still enjoy, and they still come up the next month, the next show. I mean, yeah, that's quite a unique experience. You know what I mean?
So let me translate that to Spanish, because you have a pretty unique experience. And
yes, please.
Ho Lun comienza y debuta en el año 2009, pero a la vez que hace su debut como luchador, Ho Lun debuta a la misma vez como promotor en Hong Kong. Entonces, su mentalidad estaba más enfocada en cuántos tickets o cuántos boletos voy a vender, en lugar de qué hacía en el cuadrilátero. Entonces, debuta como promotor en un show, que debuta como luchador, y en aquel momento dado, su primer show fue en verano, fue en el mes de junio, había aproximadamente 30 grados, o sea que estaba caluroso, fue en verano, Y en aquel momento dado, aproximadamente 50 personas muy apasionadas deciden entrar a ver el show inicial de lo que eventualmente se convertiría en un éxito total en China. Ho, and that's what I wanted to talk next. You were the founder of Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation. That was, and that is currently the first pro wrestling company in Hong Kong. Why did you decide to create a pro wrestling company on all places in the world, on Hong Kong, literally on the other side of the world where pro wrestling is active? For example, at that moment, pro wrestling wasn't that huge in China or in Hong Kong. So why did you took the decision to say, hey, I want to be a promoter?
Before 2009, there are basically zero pro wrestling organization in the entire Asia except in Japan. You know, I grew up with a lot of passion. I want to try this, I want to try that, and I want to become a pro wrestler. But there's no easy way for me to do that. Then this idea come up, why don't I create my own? And that's how I started.
So let me go to Spanish now. Ho Lun menciona que a excepción de en Japón, en antes del 2009 no había ninguna empresa de lucha libre en todo Asia. Entonces él dice, ¿por qué no llevamos y creamos lucha libre en Asia? Específicamente, entonces nace de esa manera la empresa que Ho Lun crea, que es Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation, y de esa manera nace ese concepto de querer ser promotor, porque no había lucha libre en aquel momento dado en Hong Kong y en todo Asia, a excepción de Japón. How can you describe, Ho, the Chinese audience? I mean, you've been wrestling literally all around the world. You've been in Singapore, you've been in Japan, Philippines, UK, Portugal, the United States, literally everywhere. What does the Hong Kong and mainland China's audience has that makes it so special?
In Hong Kong, since we have already run shows since 2009, so we've been here for almost 10 years now. The demographic of the fans here in Hong Kong, half of them are basically non-Chinese. They are expat people from America, from Europe, who lived in Hong Kong, while the other half of them are locally Hong Kong people. So the atmosphere in the Hong Kong show are always it's a mix. You know, it feels like America sometimes, when Americans cheers and get drunk and everything like that. While the other half, they have no clue of what's going on because they have never seen pro wrestling in their life. They might have watched a little bit of WWE through YouTube, but these are their first experience watching pro wrestling live. So this is Hong Kong. Versus in China, in mainland China, most of the fans in China are locally Chinese. These people watch WWE on TV, but I don't think most of them have watched wrestling live other than, you know, local wrestling events. So they don't know what to expect, and they don't know when to clap hands, they don't know when to boo, just like they are appreciating some artwork. They are so quiet sometimes, but sometimes, you know, they don't even know the rule about pinning somebody 1, 2, 3. They don't know the count now. They don't know about the rope break. This is the thing that we are trying to work on, you know, other than giving a more education to the fans about what pro wrestling is, and also bring in, you know, better content for them to watch.
So let me go to Spanish. This is a really interesting point of view. I'm going to say it in Spanish now. Porque en Hong Kong, los fanáticos de la industria de la lucha libre en Hong Kong, la mitad son personas locales de Hong Kong y la otra mitad está compuesta de europeos, americanos, y diferentes personas extranjeras que viven en Hong Kong. Y entonces Ho Lun dice que se siente como en América, como en Estados Unidos en muchas ocasiones, porque tienes estadounidenses y europeos todo el tiempo aplaudiendo, moviendo las manos, bebiendo su cerveza, embriagándose un poco, versus en mainline China, que son personas locales que sí han visto WWE, que sí han ido en algún show de lucha libre que otro, pero lo aprecian más como un trabajo artístico, como el arte, y en ocasiones son muy callados. Él menciona que parte de su trabajo es eso, educar al fanático de la lucha libre, tanto en Hong Kong como en mainland China, porque algo tan sencillo como cuando aplaudir o cuando van a contar el 1, 2 y 3, pues los fanáticos muchas veces desconocen un poco esas reglas de la lucha libre, y el propósito de tanto él como su empresa es educar al fanático en China. So let's take a flight from Hong Kong to the United States, and boom, there's Ho Lun in the WWE. Everyone was not expecting it at all, at least in this side of the world, because when they announced the list of the competitors, we saw Ho Lun and we say like, wow, this I believe this was at the moment the only Chinese wrestler in the company. How do you felt, or how was it your experience wrestling at that point in the cruiserweight classic tournament?
Let me tell you an interesting story first. I remember back in 2016 when they announced the first batch of Cruiserweight Classic competitors. That was April 1st of 2016. My friends in Hong Kong reading all this news, and they thought, that's gonna be an April Fool. That's gonna be it. And then after a few days, they realized, that's the real deal. You want to put it in Spanish first?
Yeah, I want to say that because it is a funny story. Ho Lun menciona que cuando sale la noticia de que él iba a llegar a WWE en China y en Hong Kong, fue el 1 de abril del 2016, 1 de abril, April Fools. Y la gente pensaba que eso era una broma de mal gusto de alguien, pero no era una broma. Se trataba de algo real y Ho Lun estaba llegando a la WWE. You can continue now, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, where are we? So the fans here, when they find out that's the real deal, they're excited about having a representative, a Chinese representative in America. By that time, I not only wrestle in Hong Kong, not only wrestle in China, but also a lot of places, Singapore, Thailand, I think Malaysia as well at that time. So people around Southeast Asia region show me a lot of supportive message that really warm my heart.
So I'm gonna say that in Spanish. En aquel momento dado, cuando él llega al Cruiserweight Classic en WWE, el fanático principal de China, de Hong Kong, se sentía identificado por primera vez en la empresa porque tenían a una persona nacida en su país llegando allá a representarlos. En aquel momento dado, él estaba compitiendo en lugares como Malasia, como Tailandia, como Singapur, y entonces recibió mucho respaldo de esta comunidad del sureste de Asia. Let's talk about WWE. You signed at one point with WWE, and that was the dream for all the wrestlers, and it is still the dream for many wrestlers. You achieved it. How did you felt when you were officially a part of the WWE NXT roster?
That's totally different from what I have experienced over the past. Because most of the time I'm on my own. I find my own ways. Some of the time I'm promoter, but in fact I didn't see much stuff other than wrestle for about a year in the UK and try to find ways here in Asia because there's nobody before us. I'm the first guy who's trying to do this in Asia, in Hong Kong. But once I get into WWE, the system, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of backstage stuff. Even for an NXT TV, that time NXT is not live yet. So there's TV taping. So there's one night they tape 3 to 4 episodes. So the things I've learned there, other than wrestling myself, was all this production stuff, how the camera angles work, how all this production, sound, how they call that, the LED screen, how all these supporting things to make the wrestler looks really good.
So I'm going to say this now in Spanish. Ho Lun menciona que cuando él firma con NXT en calidad de luchador, es algo completamente distinto a lo que había experimentado, porque nuevamente él era promotor y era luchador a la misma vez, pero antes de él y de su empresa no había nada de esto. Esto era nuevo, ellos fueron los primeros en hacerlo. Entonces él estaba luchando en Reino Unido, estaba trabajando como promotor en China, en Hong Kong, en diferentes partes del mundo, y entonces llega allá a NXT. Dice que es una experiencia sumamente valiosa, porque aprendió, más allá de sí ser luchador, aprendió muchas cosas sobre cómo producir un show, cómo producir el talento, y fue una experiencia excelente para él en ese aspecto. Let's talk about what happened in 2017. You requested your release from WWE, as far as we read at the reports that year on 2017. Why did you took the decision, the difficult decision at that point, to say, I cannot be a part of WWE roster? There were so many rumors, but we want to know what really happened in 2017.
I think what you read in the report are quite true. I remember back in about June or July 2017, I had a week holiday. So I went back to Hong Kong, see my family and things like that. My mother told me that she actually got cancer. So, after discussion with all my family members, I decided to, return to Hong Kong and try to spend more time with my mother. And very luckily, I've been spent 6-7 months with her in Hong Kong. That's the last stage of her life, which I have no regret at all. At the same time, after come back from the WWE to Asia, career-wise, that's a lot of, media. I draw a lot of attention from the media. I also being able to encourage, companies in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Philippines, encourage them to, how to run pro wrestling shows, how to run a promotion, and, also hands-on fly over there to help them, give them some advice, because I already made a lot of mistake when I first start, because nobody tell me what to do when I first start 10 years ago. So I think this sort of experience, I try to help them, to fast track their way to success.
So I'm going to translate this inspirational story to Spanish now. Ho Lun sale de la WWE en el año 2017 y sale porque se va de vacaciones una semana a su hogar en Hong Kong para ver a su familia, y ahí descubre que su mamá tenía cáncer. Su madre, la persona que más ama en el mundo, está enferma, y toma la difícil decisión, luego de hablar con su familia, de dejar su carrera en la WWE. Le solicita que lo dejen en libertad, la empresa le concede eso, y pudo estar los últimos 6 o 7 meses de vida, los últimos días de su mamá, junto con ella, y tiene cero arrepentimiento por ello, porque su prioridad era su familia, y lo hizo muy bien. Posteriormente, cuando llega a Hong Kong, nota que llama la atención de todo el media, de todos los medios de comunicación, y todo el mundo se preguntaba cómo este muchacho llegó allá, y entonces él y su trabajo allá inspira a personas y empresas en Malasia, en Singapur, en Vietnam, en el mismo mainland China, entre muchos otros lugares. Y su propósito en estos momentos es ayudarlos a los diferentes talentos y a las diferentes empresas a exponer su producto y a brindarle las herramientas correctas para que de igual manera puedan tener éxito sin tener que pasar tantas vicisitudes como pasarían otras personas. let's talk about the creative process in WWE. Ho, you were there for a year. As you mentioned, the production value-wise you received there was amazing. But I wanted to talk about that creative process, both as a pro wrestler and as a producer at that point. What things did you learn over there? How can you describe the creative process in your time in the WWE?
In fact, I don't involve in a lot of creative process when I was in WWE. You know, first of all, I'm not a main event over there, so I do not need a lot of creativity for myself. I actually how to say, I wrestle like who I am at first, you know, as a small guy. Well, in fact, I'm the smallest guy over there, almost the smallest guy, who have passion, who have no clue about what's happening in America. You know, that is me. That's my character. Just trying to get a victory in the ring, and don't know who I am, who my opponent is. They are much bigger than me. You know, trying to act some upset win over all these big guys, you know. But the attention to detail, all this producer about, even you do a really, really minor move, there's a meaning behind it. You know, that's when I was watching a lot of independent wrestling, you know, wrestlers do a lot of move which is unnecessary. The things I learned there is that everything you do, you must have a meaning.
Perfect. So let me translate that to Spanish. Menciona obviamente que no estaba envuelto en mucho proceso creativo porque era un luchador main eventer. No necesitaba tampoco mucha creatividad para simplemente ser él. Él era Ho Lun, un hombre pequeño, posiblemente el hombre más pequeño del roster, tratando de ganar una victoria. Entonces le ponía pasión a lo que hacía, pero principalmente era el hecho de que él aprendió que todas las movidas tienen un propósito, que hay mucha gente que hace movidas por hacerla, y por lo menos en WWE aprendió eso, el valor de cada movida. I want to say something also in Spanish. Ho Lun puede ser conseguido ahora mismo en todas sus redes sociales, Instagram como @HoHoLun719, HoHoLun719, Twitter, HoHoLun719, de igual manera, @HoHoLun719, Facebook, Ho Lun. Y para todos los promotores del mundo que estén interesados en su servicio, sea de México, de Puerto Rico, de Argentina, de Chile, de Perú, de Ecuador, a todos los promotores que nos estén viendo en Panamá, este es un caballero que es un talento a más que necesitarían tener en su cartelera. Un excelente luchador, ya ha estado en WWE, promotor el mismo en Asia, ha luchado en todas partes del mundo, así que solamente tienen que contactarlo en hoholun@w- imax.hk, hoholun@w-imax.hk, y ahí lo pueden conseguir en todas partes. De igual manera, eso va a aparecer en las descripciones. Gracias a Jacobo por la edición y a Luz por el arte. Y de igual manera pueden conseguirlos a ellos en su empresa de lucha libre. Vean sus videos, son muy buena calidad y han tenido luchas de alto calibre con talentos de todo el mundo, específicamente de China y de Hong Kong. Búsquenlos como Hong Kong Pro Wrestling en todas sus redes sociales, específicamente YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, en todas partes. Hong Kong Pro Wrestling, y ahí los van a encontrar directamente Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation, para que vean el trabajo que ha estado haciendo Ho Lun. Sir, it's been such an honor to have you as our guest. Before we go, last but not least, as I mentioned, you competed in so many countries: mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Portugal, United States. Hell, you've been everywhere. What is or wishes your favorite country to wrestle in, and why?
You know, right now, you know, there's a lot of places that I like, you know. Of course, there's things that I don't like. You know, each place have a unique, you know, good thing and bad thing. You know, in America, you know, fans are super enjoy into the show. No matter what you do, they cheer you so loud. Versus in Japan, they only clap their hands when they see a good move. But traveling in Japan is much more enjoyable than traveling in the US. US is so big, you know, you have to drive like crazy hours to get to the next arena. While in Japan, company, you know, take care of your hotels, and you got a tour bus to go to place to place. So I can't say it's not fair to Japan or to United States about, you know, which place is my favorite place. But the as long as I keep myself relevant in the wrestling ring, I enjoy it.
Let me translate that to Spanish. Menciona que le hago la pregunta de qué país le gusta luchar más. Este hombre ha viajado al mundo entero. Él me dice que le encanta el público de Estados Unidos porque disfrutan todo, están bien metidos en las luchas. Lo único negativo tal vez es que tienes que guiar muchas horas para poder llegar a la próxima arena. En comparación en Japón, el público tal vez es un poco más callado, aplauden cuando ven un movimiento grande que les sorprende, pero que allá la empresa se hace cargo de tu hotel, se hace cargo de todo, y que tienes un tour bus que te va a llegar de todas partes, que no es justicia, pero le gusta luchar en todo, que cada país tiene algo especial para luchar, pero que le gusta obviamente donde pueda mantener su talento relevante. Mr. Ho Lun, as I mentioned, it's been such an honor to have you as our guest. We always wish you the best of lucks in your projects as a pro wrestler, as a promoter, and to Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation. Always wishing you the best of lucks, and thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.